In 1943, the B-24 Liberator was a workhorse of World War II, but its crew faced deadly risks. Known as the Flying Coffin, what made this bomber so dangerous? Let's find out. The B-24 Liberator was a massive aircraft, designed to carry heavy loads and fly long distances. But while it could carry a bomb load of up to 8,000 pounds, something the B-17 couldn't, it also came with its share of deadly flaws. It looked powerful, with its wide body and twin tails, but it wasn't as tough as it seemed. It had a reputation for being a flying coffin. Unlike other bombers, this one was notorious for its weak points. The B-24 had a huge problem: its wings. The design, created by a man named David R. Davis, made the plane fast, but the wings were prone to ice buildup. Pilots joked that the wings wouldn't even hold enough ice to chill a drink, but the worst part was how they could easily snap off after just a few hits from enemy fire. And that's exactly what made flying this bomber such a dangerous job. Even with all its flaws, the B-24 served in every major theater of the war. The U.S. Army Air Forces trusted it for its range and bomb capacity. It was used to strike deep into enemy territory, carrying bombs that would cripple enemy factories and fuel supplies. But it wasn't just about bombing, it was about surviving. Unlike the famous B-17 Flying Fortress, the B-24 wasn't as sturdy. While the B-17 could survive hits and keep flying, the B-24 was not so lucky. If a B-24 took a hit, it was often a death sentence for the crew. It wasn't unusual for a well-placed shot to take off an entire wing, and in some cases, the plane would explode mid-air. One of the most deadly missions involving the B-24 was Operation Tidal Wave, where 177 bombers were sent to bomb the oil refineries in Romania. While it played a vital role in key operations, the B-24's reputation as a flying coffin overshadowed its contributions. Here's where things get controversial. While the B-24 was feared by many, it didn't get the recognition it deserved. The U.S. Army Air Forces loved its range and bomb load, but the B-24 earned its nickname Flying Coffin for a reason. Its reputation for being easily shot down meant that many airmen were reluctant to fly it. They much preferred the more famous B-17 Flying Fortress, which seemed to survive far more damage. And yet, the B-24 was used in many key operations across the world. It was often the first to be sent in, carrying out bombing runs, while other bombers hung back. Despite its reputation, it played a crucial role in some of the most important battles of the war. It helped turn the tide in places like North Africa, the Pacific, and Europe. Despite its importance, the B-24's flaws were brutally highlighted in the Battle of Ploesti. One of the most infamous moments in the B-24's history came during the Battle of Ploesti, a mission that has been remembered as one of the deadliest air raids of World War II. On August 1, 1943, 177 B-24s took off from bases in North Africa to bomb the oil refineries in Ploesti, Romania. These refineries were critical to the Nazi war machine, and the Allies knew that destroying them could cripple Hitler's ability to fight. But the mission didn't go as planned. From the very beginning, the B-24s faced a relentless barrage of enemy fire. The refineries were well defended by anti-aircraft guns, and German fighters were in the air waiting to attack. The B-24, being fast but fragile, couldn't outrun the German fighters, and the aircraft started falling one by one. Out of 177 Liberators, 53 were shot down, and nearly 660 men lost their lives. The airmen on the ground who survived were taken prisoner. It was a bloodbath. Despite the heavy losses, the mission was considered a success in terms of its strategic impact. But for those who flew the B-24 that day, it was a nightmare they would never forget. But what made the B-24 even more dangerous wasn't just its vulnerability in combat. It was its design flaws that made it a ticking time bomb. As we soar through these untold stories, let's keep the engine running. If you want to keep uncovering the dark and heroic truths of history, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Let's talk about the real, hidden dangers of the B-24. Many soldiers considered it a death trap, for good reason. The B-24 was loaded with heavy artillery and bombs, but it didn't come with much protection. Unlike other bombers, it wasn't equipped with armor that could protect the crew. The B-24 had a massive bomb bay that could carry up to 8,000 pounds of bombs, and that was one of its most valuable features. But those bombs weren't the only explosive things on board. The B-24 was filled with fuel, ammunition, and other highly flammable materials. It didn't take much for the whole plane to go up in flames, especially after being hit by enemy fire. And if the crew didn't get out fast enough, they were trapped inside the fiery wreckage. The The B-24's design posed constant threats, with its flaws making survival during missions nearly impossible. Flying the B-24 was no easy feat, especially when it was the first choice for long-range missions. Many missions took off with the Liberators flying far from friendly airfields, over enemy territory, and deep into dangerous skies. While the B-24 was excellent at reaching distant targets, it also meant that the crews were flying long hours with little hope of immediate support. Unlike today, these bombers didn't have fighter escorts to protect them during the mission, and if the plane was damaged or disabled, there was no way to call for immediate backup. If the bomber took a hit and started going down, there wasn't much time for the crew to escape. The plane's design was cramped, and the bomb bay doors didn't open like a traditional bomber. They retracted inside the fuselage, reducing drag, but also trapping the crew in an emergency. The worst part? The B-24 was notoriously hard to land in emergencies. Pilots often described it as harder to control, especially in stressful situations. The Liberator's unique design made it prone to accidents, especially during landing. The fuselage would often crumple upon impact, making it a nightmare for pilots who were forced to make emergency landings. The B-24 wasn't just about bombing missions. It had a dangerous legacy that stretched beyond Europe. While the B-24 became infamous in Europe, its role in the Pacific was just as dangerous, if not worse. The Pacific Ocean was vast, and the battles were fought far from friendly shores. The B-24 was used for strategic bombing campaigns against Japanese targets, just like it had been used in Europe. It bombed Japanese strongholds, military installations, and even entire cities. But the challenges were different in the Pacific. For one, the B-24 had to fly over enemy territory for longer stretches of time. If the bomber was damaged, there was no friendly base to return to. And with the vast expanse of the Pacific, emergency landings in friendly territory were almost impossible. The B-24's range was essential, but it came at a price. The crews often faced grueling long flights without enough fuel to make a safe return. If the B-24 was shot down over the Pacific, the crew was often left to fend for themselves in hostile waters, facing exposure and starvation. There were no guarantees of survival, and many didn't make it back. The B-24, although not as widely recognized as the B-17, was an engineering marvel for its time. It was the first bomber ever to feature a tricycle landing gear, a design that allowed for easier takeoffs and landings. Unlike the B-17, which had a tailwheel, the B-24's nose gear helped stabilize the aircraft during its taxiing missions. This improvement in landing gear technology marked a significant step forward in bomber design. Additionally, the B-24 was built in massive numbers, with over 18,000 aircraft produced, making it the most produced bomber in history. Its role in World War II was not only critical in the air, but also in shaping the future of military aviation. But for the men who flew it, the dangers were very real, and their courage was unmatched. They didn't just fly the B-24, they lived its legacy. The story of the B-24 isn't just about a plane, it's about the men who flew it. Many of the B-24 crew members were incredibly young, barely out of their teens. They were thrust into the middle of the deadliest war the world had ever seen, and they faced unimaginable danger every single day. While the B-24 crews didn't get the glory that the B-17 crews received, they played an essential role in the war. They didn't have the same level of protection, and they faced more obstacles and challenges than any other bomber crew. These men put their lives on the line to carry out their missions, often with little support or recognition. But for all the danger they faced, the B-24 crews continued to fly. They knew what they were up against, and they did it anyway. Their bravery and sacrifice deserve to be remembered, even if history has mostly overlooked their stories.